Hello, you've reached S.J. Thomason with Christian-Apologist.com. Today I'm going to talk to you about ways that Christians can respond to Boghossian-style street epistemology. Street epistemology is the application of epistemology, which is the study of knowledge, outside of formal academic contexts. According to its advocates, it's a fun and effective way to talk to people about what's really true. It helps people reflect on the reliability of the methods used to arrive at their deeply held beliefs by identifying, understanding, and challenging, quote, belief claims, unquote, with probing questions. That comes from streetepistemology.com. This approach was popularized by an atheist named Peter Boghossian, who is a full-time faculty member at Portland State University in its philosophy department and national speaker for the Center for Inquiry. Advocates often take to the streets to question Christians on why they believe, in the hopes that seeds of doubt will be planted in their minds. Sadly, many Christians, captured on atheist GoPro cameras, are unable to well articulate their positions. These responses encourage street epistemology advocates. A person who calls himself Pine Creek Douglas on Twitter has asked me to appear on his YouTube channel to debate him a couple of times. Yet, I feel that Christians who appear on others' YouTube channels are well advised to prepare in advance by doing due diligence and watching their previous shows. Accordingly, I happened upon one of Douglas's shows yesterday. He spotted me in the chat and asked me to answer the following question, which I'll paraphrase here. He said, "Would you rather be with Jesus on earth in his spiritual form or in his physical form?" I answered, "I would rather be with Jesus in his physical form. Hey, we could have coffee together." He said, "Okay, because if you said you would rather that he be in the spiritual form, I would have to call BS. But aren't you a little upset that you're only experiencing this inferior form?" I answered, no. I had to leave the chat to drive to the airport, and I reflected on better ways to respond. When I arrived at the airport, I tuned in again to his channel, and this time I heard him conversing with a pastor called Mike Winger. I thought Mike's answers to his many pointed questions were phenomenal, and you can hear the entire conversation on YouTube. In a nutshell, Douglas made suggestions that question God's justice for the drowning victims during Noah's time. He also made statements such as the cornerstone in Christianity is scapegoating, and he said something like, "Some say Paul is a leader of Christianity, not Christ." Again, these aren't true, and again, Mike Winger competently answered all of these points. The instructions atheists use to engage in street epistemology are as follows. 1. Identify a topic in which one can find an injustice. Injustice is the key to street epistemology. Perceived injustices help to plant doubts in believers' mind, according to this model. Douglas selected the victims of the flood in Noah's time. 2. Ask the Christian how he feels when he hears that babies have drowned in present times. 3. When the Christian responds that he feels terribly about such tragedies, shift the conversation to the topic selected in item number 1, which was Noah's Ark, and then draw parallels. 4. Ask the Christian how he feels about the morality of a God who would cause such tragedies. 5. The Christian will either remain in silence or, as Mike Winger did, he will offer the many justifications for God's actions back in Old Testament times, and based in this case on the moral depravity of those living during Noah's time. We can compare that to the Canaanites, who were morally egregious, or the people who lived in Sodom and Gomorrah. Same thing. Other reasons for God's actions during those times include God's perfect mercy, perfect justice, and ability to see the potential of descendants of such egregiously immoral cultures. How should we respond as Christians to street epistemologists? As Christians, we are called upon by Christ to share the good news and respond in kind, according to 1 Peter 3:15. So we can't ignore this approach or approaches by other atheists who have set out to plant seeds of doubt in our fellow brothers and sisters. We are also called to fully educate ourselves and to understand all of the arguments both for and against Christianity. Accordingly, I offer a few brief suggestions to respond to such lines of questioning. 1. Christians need to read the Bible passages on Noah's Ark, the Canaanites, the Midianites, biblical slavery, and virgins. Many Christian scholars have studied these events to offer responses that take into account the historical context of the cultures, along with the appropriate genres, literary hyperbole, and intentions of the authors. I recommend visiting William Lane Craig's website, which is www.reasonablefaith.org, as he offers a wealth of free resources on these topics. 2, Christians should always bring the conversations back to Jesus Christ and his example of obedience, sacrifice, mercy, love, forgiveness, and passion for the needy. 3, identify heroes of the present and the past who have overcome horrific tragedies and have emerged victorious after giving themselves to Christ. Such an approach will shift the burden of explaining justice back to the advocates of street epistemology, who will be better able to understand God's justice. Here's an example. Louis Zamperini was a U.S. Army Air Force prisoner of war during World War II, who was captured by the Japanese and kept in camps for months. His captor singled him out and physically and mentally tortured him, as detailed in the movie The Unbroken. At one point, his captor demanded that Zamperini's fellow prisoners stand in line to punch Zamperini in the face. Those who refused were beaten and broken in extreme ways. Zamperini maintained his strength the entire time, yet when he was finally freed, he spent years as an alcoholic who hated the man who had heaped such trauma on him. Then one day he found Christ. He read the Gospels and the story of Jesus' crucifixion and began to allow himself to cry for the very first time in his life. There's a video by him that recounts his story on YouTube. If you type in his name, you'll find that video. Why does God permit tragedies in the world? God is in the business of building our character and our spirits. Through the example of Jesus and his forgiveness of his enemies on the cross, we are instructed to take up our own crosses, to overcome challenges and tragedies, and to love our neighbors and forgive our enemies. Louis Zamperini's example is a testament to the joy we can experience once we do that. My suggestions to respond to street epistemologists are as follows. 1, identify a situation in which love overcame, whether in our own lives or in the lives of others. Keep that situation in mind to possibly share if an answer to the following question is not forthcoming. 2, ask the street epistemologist whether he or anyone he knows has successfully overcome tragedies in their lives. 3, ask the street epistemologist whether such tragedies made these people stronger. 4, ask the street epistemologist, would he rather spend time with those he mentioned who have overcome tragedies to emerge victorious, or would he rather spend time with people who have had their lives handed to them on silver platters? In other words, would he rather spend time with Louis Zamperini, Nelson Mandela, or Harriet Tubman, or with the spoiled son of a very wealthy man who spends his days pondering ways to blow his money? 5, ask the street epistemologist why he thinks we are here on this earth. The combination of the last 2 questions should be pointed, and it should hopefully open the eyes of the street epistemologist to understand the underlying meaning in life. 6, explain the story of the crucifixion, forgiveness, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And 7, offer this following story from George MacDonald as told in C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. Imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. At first, perhaps, you can understand what he is doing. He is getting the drains right and stopping the leaks in the roof and so on. You knew that those jobs needed doing, and so you are not surprised. But presently, he starts knocking the house about in ways that hurts abominably and does not seem to make any sense. What on earth is he up to? The explanation is that he is building a quite different house from the one you thought of. Throwing out a new wing here, putting on an extra floor there, running up towers, making courtyards. You thought you were being made into a decent little cottage, but he is building a palace. He intends to come live in it himself. I hope this helps anyone interested in building the case for Christianity. Keep in mind always that those who have adopted the Boghossian style of street epistemology may be just lost sheep who need to find their way back to God. Deep down, they may be looking to you for hope and light. Thank you for your time. Please visit me again at Christian-apologist.com and please like and subscribe. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.